Let me remind all of ourselves to take a moment and cultivate the bodhicitta motivation or the altruistic intention seeking complete enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings. So with that kind of motivation, we should engage in this teaching. I'm going to read a couple of passages where we left off last time in the form of giving you the blessing of oral transmission.
Sayala jazo some ne lam tabala jazo jazo zeba yinla te do jazo de be ruba sha ne lam tamba yang so dan ba yi bi che ro tan bi she nian ba dang zui xie yi le xi ban tan ba sang jie dang sang jie yin de jie xie wei xue de de la so be jiu so nian jing ke yi lai cha wa 可以了，我可以了，写吧，你们吧，都别在没把一了写吧的学了就送运，弄得都别学了，我的学我别我的学完这吧了，天都就是这边， Drupala Chawa, Timbi Shero, Chuji, Jeso to Bara Timbi, Chu Drupani, Chu Yang, Chu Yang, Devi, Jesu, Drupati, Indila Jaso, Yang Deso, Dribi, Hansala, Troso, Zimba, Tez Jesu to Drupala Chawa, Tabi Sherity, Shuba Nama, Tumbara, Lava in Bichero. Hiện ông bố gửi vào ông bố mình gửi vào cho này ông bố ý là phải hướng số đủ số cho ý thằng này ý nó là gửi vào là trong thời gian này ý sẽ cho bà sẽ bảo là vì sẽ养到bà long cho sau ý chế biến là vì sẽ chỉ nữ số lên bảo xem xem là những cho này giờ tiền bảo những gì chế vào thì về thì là cho số về chẳng xem xem là những cho là gì thì sau bao thứ số quân cho là chế vào trong bao nhiêu nhiều đấy khi quân cho là chế vào sao và bên ngoài thì chúng là nhỉ số tụi mua cái lao cho tàu bò là nhỉ cà phê lao cho tụi là tàu bò là những cái để mà tàu bò này những cái để bà lấy khang chế số là cháu và thế này yang đã nhìn như thế năm điều là đi hiện đại là năm điều là đi hiện đại là cháu số mà nó特别是老教授在用水平审当这印度了，要叫做没得见到罗巴民。现送把他拉下来，教授们这话都甚至那些本王都没得见到民主把这送么，这他们的今天拉差不多，教授拉什么拉普及教授民间弄。一大说就被其他当他一大当了大西没有定，这么说了一切年提到了6年没有一届，提到了这几学的也少个些个做，说咱们那里没有没得别人能见到了，所以做等明白了你所以这少些弄。你把你们都等着拉萨巴拉地巴等什么等，或者修巴等那普巴等，没得现的跟叫拉萨巴三万角等三巴等角的，甚至那巴等这帮什么你工作上了叫说一切性，过些巴能到就把啦，那么当过些巴能当就把没些包。这边那个上些古书什么这个灵异这样，经常写了样，这面的是我就啥没什么，当他们说把我说，马古巴的你的帮的，当把他的古人行的说的。现在的现在这些歌手现在讲几把经常用特别休息松说，我们这里西部赛的这老巴的没老比印度那了，老百姓我这去到学门吧，这些吧老少吧，你们到这些别个，你们到这些别出心。那里说这的东宝物送去的那下几位几户跑的，通着的吧送把当龙车子里边东宝考完去，两个人的别是一部真的去学吧，学的学不学的就把那没学给的这不学的学不学的学把它脏吧。那是新把人这把就买些说些连你什么钱吧的话，钱里把这新把钱里把新把那月呢，那年就设计这部学的叫呢学的了大别多年些个旅行了哇，那概念别人把上的钱把送别。古说那的这些眉毛啊，等研究古说就上坡里边这帮。 全部知道了，瞧啊的，听得多比哈的这个哈多说，下面没人我，那就全部学了，家有几个是谁会员？这是不能的，也林业现在林么荣邦搞的个我前边30小，天线的个两把老前边学些的。就是下面就过了没人办没，他说的人生的就是下，说是把功能得到了在学习这，是把这个这些也让某个把帮助，这个那部当然就把都把都送的些把当，送的些把当35当。我介绍了就把当这个汉当这的规划当，我有说我们规划他们这帮的学工就当然规划些把我这些这个送上电厂边把通呢，他们家的家人当，钱当俺们呢，他们就是给我说我的说什么呢？我关系可能全民也把那应该些个素质，一定该些个素质给学了个别生的，学嘛说呢，怎么没容易写送别，我把的天呢学应该下来些呢讲让家学了怎么这样写不人多的，学么了某个把写了些原因，我把他等的你给说给。蒙别就嘛说，得了蒙那几头松说，印度那么来的时候，当给说给当中给就大众怎么的他给大众啦，大众啦也没事情哎，每年把等每年把钱等也菜些钱等也做些理所见的。你说这的当然当然啊，那么他们觉得没有我经济工作，当然可把写把的，那把的老师过来用的把哪能的把也跑着他给也用了大妹子，那你先把发现大小姐，这是提这么多年什么也没少。我家的泡面规矩早的给农民了，你把用没啥给我这个，他把他民主，你等把的老哥里面一些松说，这点小鬼是做什么的？他可是群众的点的话，可是讲不着两年的，他讲不着于是工作是我送还是讲不着这些。第二是说，第三说的，他讲从拉赞来了哇，我第学的他讲不拉这卡东的学意思。
Gisela read a couple of pages from 192 to 196. This is volume number 1 in English translation of the great treatise on the stages of path to enlightenment, simply called Lam-rim Chen-mo in Tibetan. So we had already talked about, identifying the objects of refuge and different ways to take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. We call the triple gems or the 3 jewels. And now the next section, if you will, that we are going to talk about today is having gone for refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, what are the refuge precepts that we should follow? So that's going to be our focus today.
对，但就人把这么地的看见，现在这办这么些呢，但我这边我是我们个写的，他一个听给些说是没得说啊。他听给些的一个你是朋友呢，你听了叫那个呀，我这没这么在过是吧？现在国这边的说是比我些嘛，考试没是偏多么是吧？现在考比较教头年纪，考试比西要用给在过是吧？我听说了些呢，因为教授说的今天拉上个只用过嘛的，因为教农给教工作什么过的，工作什么这些是吧？这些，但对工这些，但 될 바잠 좀 쉬네 인 거디 그 팀 기녀바도 될 타로 수여서나 인 콜라잖아 이제 신제 될 그게 제가 튕기 미시베 에네 비케네 좀 샤니 수나를 따르고 그러봐 어디 쓰여다 랍자냐 선나야 되레스
Having gone for refuge in the three jewels, abiding by their precepts is, metaphorically speaking, just like we follow the law of the land, right? If we break the law of the land, then we will run into trouble, right? And so we will be tried according to the laws and the constitutions of the land, and even there. You see, if we are to seek a help, we need to seek a help of someone who has the ability to help us. Maybe in the form of that we don't really have to maybe go to jail, but we can serve some other penalty or a term, and in that way, our punishment is reduced or something like that. Somebody who is able to help us, we are going to seek the help of such a person, right? If we go and take help outside that, nobody's really going to be able to help us. In the same way, from spirituality point of view, we also need to find, those who are capable of helping and guiding us, and then we follow their words of advice, if you will. And so as we have already talked about this the other day, that we cannot take refuge in worldly gods, however powerful they are. Yes, they have certain powers we don't have, but at the same time, they are also stuck in samsara as we are. So we cannot ask them to help us to get out of samsara because, hello, they are in samsara. Okay? So we really need those who have gone beyond samsara. And this is where we find Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, enlightened being, enlightened teaching, and spiritual community as our objects of refuge. Because by seeking refuge in them, they are able to provide us the help, to fulfill our aspirations. And so once we have gone for refuge in them, then we need to abide by the advice of the precepts, right? And so doing negativities, engaging in negativity is really going against their advice. It's just like breaking the law, right? If we follow the law, life is going to be good. If we break the law, pay the price, as we Americans say. And so same is true here. If we do negativities, pay the price.
What is that? pe nyamz le ko ma da je she pe to ma da shong gang ga jing ba wa she da ngo ze pe rig ba de she na en che kun jo ja zu ro en ta xin ping da we da en ta da sim je ti ga sang je sa ga wa sang je ga sim je sang je sa cha da da ya sim je bre en sang je chang sang je sa she da ta da sim je du ngo nyong ge te lag ma wa she da su su gu jo de ma cha sang je ji ko pe to ma
In order for us to be able to engage in a spiritual journey or to engage in practice, it is very important and essential as well for us to get education in Dharma or spirituality. So that's the foundation, right? We cannot engage in journey blindly. But having gained the knowledge, spiritual knowledge, now that is not adequate. Okay, we can just simply say that, okay, now I have learned a lot about Dharma, as if it will do the magic for us. It doesn't. We need to cultivate the Dharma, we need to implement the teaching or put it into practice. So there is no substitute to practice. And each of us has responsibility to cultivate Dharma within our mind and bring about the inner changes of the transformations. Okay, we cannot assign that job to others, including the Buddhas and gurus. They can't do that for us. If they could, we all have been enlightened a long time ago. Okay, there have already been countless Buddhas, and nobody loves us more than these Buddhas do, right? They really love us infinitely, and they wanted the best for us, but they couldn't do it for us. They could only show us the right way or the path, and it is our responsibility to follow the path. And if we don't, as you say, walk the walk, we just talk the talk, well, it's not going to cut it. So therefore, we need to talk and we need to walk, and that's our responsibility.
다 랍자들 지도도 오늘 그랬지. 다 용다 차차서 들 애니 파파 통미 그 노알 수에 거제다 힌데베 명나 중에서 애니 형이 다 랍자 형좀 가니도 어디 뒤니마 네 거셔 대 줘야 있어.
So in order to talk about what we call refuge precepts, or I would even say advice, we have two main sources cited in this Lam-rim text. One is in Asanga's text about ethics called Compendium of Determinations. Okay, that's going to be our source. And the other is Indian Master Shantipa's Exegesis of the Discipline. So those are going to be our source materials to talk about, to understand refuge precepts.
당벌 희전이래. 희전 당부 기부 담발을 땜바. 네. 응아티에바다 신예 당바 연대 탐제기 내도 통네. 땜바데 상예를 잡수 소에네. 람tom바볼 잡수 소인라. 대다 지스 템비 드바샤네. 람tom바볼라. 무여서 람tom바볼라 무여서 땜바 이미 셔로서 다 거기 되는 그래서 디히드 이거 당보 디요 당보 기부 담발 땜바 해야지. 저 기부 담발 땜바 해야 돼. 이거 소소 비게 개신이 돼야 돼. 어디 찍으래 봐. 되는 상질 그 잡수 송에 되게 되면 가르치고 그러세는 가서 그래서 담발 잡수 짐바 보인라. 되다 지수 좀한테 갈라 그러세는 주바샤는 람tom바 무스 땜비 셔로스. 어디스 더 그래서 돈다 찍이잖아 봐. 그래서 이 기부 담발 땜바 해야 돼요. 기부 담발 쭉 성의 좀 되대샤. 다 뒤참도 개신이 되래요. 쉬었던 게 돼. 쉬다 들어야 이제 그게 때는 기부 담발 땜바데 어디 납자 당보대 있어. 그죠? 어디 성지 구조 되래도.
So we have two sets of precepts advices. Each set contains 4 precepts, And right now we, draw from Asanga's Compendium of Determinations. We are on page 194, right at the bottom. And the first point is the first set of subdivisions. Mouthful to say, anyway. It is called, simply called, rely on excellent persons. Okay? The Tibetan term is Kiwut Damba, which is always we find it hard to render in English. Here they simply said excellent person, right, which doesn't mean much to me. Or sometimes we translate it as sublime person. Sometimes we say valid person. Anyway, so I just want to cue you. We have a Houston translation problem. No, it's kidding. So anyway, let's go with the excellent problem. I mean, it's not my job to critique something here. So here, so don't talk too much. I'll translate. So really, what it means is, the first thing is we need to rely upon an excellent person, or let's say authentic person. It really refers to Buddha, enlightened being, right? There can't be anybody else who is going to be, more excellent than an enlightened, fully enlightened person. Okay? So that means we try to rely upon an enlightened being. That said, well, we all don't have direct access to enlightened beings, do we? So the next best thing we have is qualified gurus or spiritual teachers, who are, we can see as representatives of enlightened beings or the Buddha. So therefore, as a part of our precept of advice here is that we need to cultivate, rely upon enlightened beings and qualified teachers.
nyumu ba dobi mikba yele sheba de chöle jab sungwe ne long do dobe chöle ngondi shawa zemba yinla de jiz tembe roba shawa ne te imbi shero se de da ene tichu de karza tambe chö yeba da tsuyin yele sheba se ya de karse na ene sangye so sangye ni de kanje khada yeda su chö de se ne de ba yewe yin ne de ba kede chö ni ba zo tsuyin yele sheba se na timare da 먼저 배는 비가족 삼로 약속동야 될 수신이지 세워라. 다 용업시 되게 취미이지 나와라. 내가 거기서 성도 취미이지 세워라. 그래서 뒤에 수신이지 시에는 얘는 뒤에 그게 최다 그래서 표현 삼니. 비해봐 담아 저 일 시에는 소도 율바 그게 이게 따야 되는 최리자 다들 데레서 담배 취연 받아 수신 일 시와 되는데 이때 추억장소 가려서 추억해야 돼. 근데 드롭으로 와서 이게 돈다래 해서 그렇다.
We're on page 193, right on the top. There are two advices kind of combined together. And your caption reads, listen to the sublime teachings and fix your attention properly on them. Now the explanation given on this is, we need to study Dharma, or traditionally we call listen to a Dharma teaching, spiritual teaching, right? Now this depends on you, whoever you cultivate as your gurus or teachers, right? Always understand these qualified teachers. Then you listen to their teachings, okay? So that's the important part of a refuge precept. We study Dharma or we listen to teachings. And then what goes with that, simply listening to teaching is not adequate or enough. Whole purpose of listening is what? To experience the teaching, and that requires cultivation. So that's what the second part says, fix your attention properly on the teaching. The Tibetan word, I know there are some of you who have been studying Tibetan, which the translator appreciates my second footnote, I guess this is. The Tibetan word calls Chushin Yije, which we can translate as proper mental application. Okay, what it really basically means is positive thinking. Okay, and the Chumin Yije, which is the antithesis of that, is improper mental application. So here, proper mental application, where it says fix your attention, that's supposed to be proper mental application, is once you listen to teaching, then we have to attend to those teachings as antidotes to counteract our own deluded states of mind. Right? We focus on those things. We attend to those things that can help us counteract our own deluded states of mind and overcome our delusions. So this is how we can really experience the real teaching. This requires cultivation and practice. Okay,
다 시바 현재 기저 당부 시바 되면 최 예수 주바 세야지가 어디 저버 가르쳐서 최세대 양대시 탈바라와 더 듣으면 주바데 가르쳐 에네 때 rum게서 긴디고 주고라 지지거다 긴디도 잡서 네 양대서 주베 간사라 초선지바이나 때도 지스 준비 주바샤네 탈베셔두 휴관남당 투발로바임비 셔로스 거기 가다지 쇼두야게 이 근두 군조도 좋았으니 근데 대나신이 로브조야 쇼 녀스 렌단으로부터 빅바타스로부터 이 근두 군조를 셔니 이 나신 로브고레스.
And then the fourth point in the first set of four advices or precepts is on page 190 says, cultivate a practice that confirms with the teachings. What that really means is that our goal is to actualize or attain what we call nirvana, right? The state beyond suffering. And so therefore, in order to reach that state, as we engage in the spiritual journey, we also need good companions, isn't it? So this is where the spiritual community or Sangha comes into the picture. Yeah? Because these real Sangha members, they are bent upon, dedicated to go all the way to their travel destination, which is nirvana. Yeah? So we would also like to go to the same destination. So therefore, we seek their companionship And they are just like the examples before us, isn't it? So they set the examples, the Sangha members, and we follow them. So then our thought and actions, become agreeable or concordant with each other, isn't it? Because we do what they do. We try to think the positive way, they try to think the positive way. So this is how our thought and actions conform to each other, agree with each other, and that's important, precept.
다 히든 예바다 엉보 미고바 샤와네 엉보 유라 파야스 소에 제소 민장네 가서 제소 이장네 유나라 고발라 쫑디 테네 이셔 소바 샤바고 스테레 다 가서 노에나 신에 테요라 가서 맥냐시 칸세네 베 맥장을 보마타니 냐시 칸타마도 베 디레시 가서 간지 통제치 보시나 에네 엉보 유디 가서 교도 대가 나시 차당 무슨 제야 샤고로 와 세디스 엉보 미고 세디 세다 계시 비게 에네 다 그저 맥도 암조가 디레 엉보 제 샤다 제소나 람자 샤다 제소 사우니 에네 뭐셔 마신 주꼼 터버고 그래서 그러와 다 간지 삼디 꼼토 이래 삼디 자 그런 거지 좀 꼼토고 말와 거기지 거기 염리 때 시대 다 거기 다다 두어와 어디래 어디시야.
So now we begin with the second set of 4 precepts advices. It's in the middle of page 193. And the first point is called, do not excite your sensory faculties. The explanation given on this is that when we keep our sense doors open, then all kinds of things become visible to us. Right now we see, we hear, everything, and then when we follow our sense faculties, our mind get distracted because we are basically chasing, right, the objects of sensory perceptions, and then what happens is then we really get distracted. In the monastic rules and regulations or ethics we call Vinaya, it is said, as Geshe recalls, that for the monastic monks, which applies to the nuns, also I say monks here, is that as they are in their everyday life, they must not, look everything and everywhere like, hey, what's happening, kind of, I'm here, where are you? They just have to really train their vision in the sense that they are only going to look at the distance about, very traditional measurement called 1 yoke. The yokes we put on the animals to plow the land, So that much, so that, they really limit their vision so that, all kinds of things don't fall into the scope of their vision and they get distracted, right? Now, as we all have those experiences, we keep all our sense doors open, all kinds of things we see and experience, and then all kinds of emotions, arise in us, right? Now we get attached to this, then we don't like that, and we hate that, and then, we are confused here, and so all kinds of those things happen, which is a distraction, So therefore, it says, we do not excite our sensory faculties. We need to restrain our sense, faculties.
상이 집에 라베 희진우스 렘바워스 데레 가제 다 소소피게 다 당보 강가 렌토 말바 다데 게니에도 나지 제바 난가 제바 세게자 어디나 이세 당보 소지로 보야 당보 찍라 아니 잠로 당보 찍라 데네 야 게니에 담말라 이니 데네 기진도 셰 데네 야 아니 게롱도 셰 야야 빠니 라베 희강 렌톱도 셰고 그래서 그럴 때 디시가 이제 가려서 기다야 랍 지에 텔 쇼드도 장리야 Any gay young was a 2 year monk, Lela, or Disha, she's a minute, should remember the Marva.
Something I learned from previous explanation is, so when our sense doors are open, we see all kinds of things, we hear all kinds of things, and then our mind, follows them and get distracted. And sometimes, depending upon where we are, we're able to withdraw our mind, right, from those distractions. But other times, we are kind of sucked into those things, so we couldn't do much, really. So that's why as we do practice, we get better and better. Our ability to, control our mind gets better. So that's why we need to restrain our sense doors. Now, the next one is it says, take up the precept correctly. Just one sentence there in English. And the explanation given on this is, we really start off at a very basic level. If we are really interested in spirituality, spiritual practice, as they say, as practitioners, okay, not for some kind of intellectual pursuit, then we can start taking some of the basic ethics or the precepts. And it can start with what we call upasaka and upasika vows, lay person's vows, isn't it? So in the lay person's vows, there are 5 of them, and you are not required to take all 5. Pick whichever 5 you like. That's called, you get it, you abide by one layperson's ethics of the vows. And then you say, okay, now I can do more. Well, then you can take few more. Yeah? And now you say, you know what, I want to take all 5. That's how, as your ability and determination increases, you take more. And then at a certain point, you might say, you know what, really I want to take, the monastic ordination somewhere. Well, again here, you don't jump right into the full ordination, right? You will start off with novice monk and novice nun ordination. Yeah? And then you will slowly do that, you see. The why, it is talked about in this sense is if we truly want to dedicate ourselves into practice, right, that's the assumption here, then becoming a monk or a nun or monastic is really very important. Because once you become a nun and monk, what else you have got to do? You said, I'm not going to do anything else, but I'm just going to practice, study, right? So you have more time and energy to do practice because you don't have family obligations and other obligations. Okay, so that's why it is talked about in that sense. Of course, we all know in order to practice Dharma, you do not have to be monk or a nun. That is not a necessity thing. But you could, but you don't have to. Okay? But if you really want to dedicate completely into, how do we say it? Even more than 100%, isn't it 200% or something? Then you want to go in that direction. Yes.
That's somebody Simjin Ying Chawani, Jared the Maninji Chava the Shuami, tell a job sewing, young Simjin and Ying Chawabon was. So the Sanjay Dema the Desivar Vatakaje, Yingji of the Chawis, said that Namji to the order, Hill never mentioned what Ting Ming should have said. Hill Pento to get take what she was shoes, to let the shower, the ropes until the war, or did not ye conjure. That I was the what she was and that's him in the big Savasha at the pass was here. Any Dakin Yamjer Senta, Choju that what she was she the Carson, socially hill Joshua Shani, Tsawapa, the hill Pento drops you, Nega Pig, Mondo Guia, Tatu Sanji Sanguia, Tide Samo Dongoa, this one to that, Shelia, and Tsawasha Yoma, Zamshagora, Tsawashi Yoma.
Then the next precept, this is the third in the second set, is called be compassionate toward living beings. Okay? So that means cultivate compassion or nyingje in Tibetan, karuna, towards and for sentient beings. Now this is really a heart of Buddha's teaching, isn't it? Sometimes Buddha's teaching is characterized as as being adorned by compassion. It's a very compassionate, teaching, and so that is central to Buddha's teaching. So when we look at Buddha's teaching, categorically speaking, we have what we call Theravadin Buddhism, and we have the Mahayana. Okay, and sometimes in a very simple way, the distinction between the two is that if we follow the Theravadin Buddhism, okay, then our practice and commitment is, to follow the principle of non-violence or ahimsa, right? Do not hurt anyone. We should not be violent towards anybody. Yeah, so that's more emphasized in the Theravadin Buddhism. Now, in addition to that, when we follow the Mahayana Buddhism or Bodhisattva's way of life, that's not enough, right? What we say, now you should do everything possible to help and benefit others, isn't it? So being altruistic is essential to Mahayana Buddhism. And this is why in the Mahayana Buddhism, we talk about all kinds of practices or techniques to train our minds, such as equalizing self with others, exchanging self for others. Okay? And so through that way, we really learn to cherish others more than ourselves, isn't it? So according to the Mahayana, the mantra is, others are more important than you. Or me, actually. Okay? So others before self. Yeah. So therefore, in Buddhism, if we kind of summarize in a very simple version, what does Buddhism mean? Combining both Theravadan Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, it really means if you can help others, benefit others, Mahayana's way, isn't it? So if you cannot help others, at least don't harm others. Don't be a troublemaker. See, so that's what it is. So that's what we're talking about. So in the heart of Buddhism, whether it's Theravadan Buddhism or Mahayana Buddhism, is a compassion. Be compassionate towards others. Mostly.
다 데리 가르사 뒤도 군조 셔벌 좀 샤와서 누가 어디래 나 니래히 군조를 셔벌 샤와스 데리 다디 잠조 납자라 이제 뒤도 군조 셔바 셔거서 뭐도 데리 뭐저니 예바스 가야자 소모도 뭐 정주스베 라보 dombal랑이나 이 군조 이마지 셔바 찍시에서는 이 예시 찍어라 군조 성을 어떻게 찍어 그래서 제가 이 셔바다 소도 넘지 연장으로 가르치 봐 나올 피고 있는 이거를 되면은 In Suzu Kalasa, the show of the
Then the fourth point in the second set of precepts or advices is at the bottom of page 193. Those of you have a text called "Strive to make periodic offerings to the three jewels." Okay, now this is what we call advice. If you do it, you cultivate positive energy. If you don't do it, you're not breaking any vows here, really. Okay, in this particular sense. And but according to Bodhisattva vows, if we have taken Bodhisattva vows, if we completely forget to make offering in a whole day, we have transgressed, our Bodhisattva precept. But those who haven't taken Bodhisattva vows, it may not be a transgression, So what it really means is maybe some of you, are kind of into making water ball offerings. Maybe you have some set of water balls at home or some cups or whatever you're using there. Well, that's part of making offering, isn't it? But even if we, don't have all these things, which is okay, because every day we need to eat and drink, isn't it? Okay. So before we eat and drink, we think about, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and we offer the first part of our food and drink before we eat it, right? We touch it because before, how's better I could mess it up, maybe. We offer, them to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and that's part of this precept of the practice. Okay.
다 명할 중앙들이야. 때는 소소다 가지 상식 최도 소소 납자지 두모 납자니는 다 당보도 소소 납자들이.
And next, we are moving into another section called how they appear in the oral tradition. Okay, according to sometimes we call the pith instructions, pithy instructions. And so there are some what called the specific precepts or advices.
당보니 각별 납자다 주별 납자 당보니 냥 가사 냥은 대발레 강시 somla 叫着啊 되네 양다 개념데 남데 양 산데 현다라 남데 산데 현다 남들 산에 현다라 叫做着没有特别去了叫着他的阿里提没的对他看见说说拉着的上级工作叫着拉着的了呀说说给各把怕写的没学过啊这最学过啊你给他印度啊的当不搞出来了吧这多啊我的两点三多的有啥现在上级叫着的个人现在对这个人是他啥现在了别个你看见旁人马到不看见家属么家属呀的旁人到你掏出你家属过是吧带一家的这样沿着他就是交通给快交通呀的是吧我就是的这旁人到不是吧我说这马到被人今天拉出去不是车我就等给至少里呀那带一家就呢那这里呀讲究那不是商业叫着给着是吧现在这里呀商业了叫着没弄送的吧我这里就是他各别那不是的
So now we are going to talk about specific precepts or advices relating to each of the three jewels. Okay, and we will talk on two different levels, if you will. What we should not do and what we should do. Okay, and the fancy words are prescriptive precepts and prescriptive precepts. Okay, and usually I have been using the word for the proscriptive. I call it prohibitory precepts, what we should not do. Okay, and on page 194, we have stanzas quoted from a text called Great Final Nirvana Sutra. Okay, and so having gone for refuge in the jewel of Buddha as our guru or the teacher, what we should not do, what we are prohibited from doing, right? That precept is that we should not seek refuge. We call ultimate refuge in worldly deities or gods. They are powerful, yes, they could help us here and there, but we cannot take ultimate refuge in them. Okay? As I said, that they couldn't help us. That's the whole point. So if we want to be free from unfortunate states of rebirth, we want to be free from samsara, and however powerful the worldly gods or the deities are, they are still in samsara and couldn't help us. Someone who is transcendental, we call Arya. Okay, what is that? My third footnote or something? Is someone who has gained direct insight and realization into emptiness, right? So such a person, can become our ultimate object of refuge. We can seek refuge in him or her. Okay? Below that level, if anybody is not transcendental, as I defined it, however powerful they are, sorry, we press the button, I can't take refuge in you. So, so therefore, the prohibitory precept or the proscriptive precept used in this text is that having gone for refuge in Buddha, we should not go for ultimate refuge in who is less than Buddha or who is not transcendental, even the worldly gods.
so gawa chobo yakbo no ko ya lobjong te ya to ya me yakbo ye na cho nge ba ye ko lobso dubja sha ga do di ke she mo zi ga di cha ni cho mu de ba de men do bas.
Now, having gone for refuge in Dharma, spiritual teaching, what we should not do, or the proscriptive precept is that we should not harm anybody. We should not hurt anyone, right? So himsa in Sanskrit. And if we do hurt someone, then we are going against, that particular precept. Having gone for refuge in Sangha, spiritual community, we must not, it says, become befriend Tritikas or non-Buddhist friends. Now we have, not friends, non-Buddhist individuals is because it's not like don't become friends, but in a sense like it become like a trusted friends, and then there is a possibility that we might get negatively influenced by them, right? As we associate more with each other, right? We share our thoughts, feeling, and it happens that, we started to like some of the things they tell us, and so there is a possibility that we might lose our path and refuge practice. So therefore, in this particular case, as we understand, ordinarily speaking, if you are in a good company, as you said, you might learn something, you might get benefited, you get better and better. But if you are in a bad company, right, and your life is going to be, one heck of a life, as you say, it is you're going to be very painful and difficult life. So same is true here. As we follow the path and we befriend the Sangha members as our friends. Now, if we go with those who have different, mindset, so we might get influenced by them. That's the meaning of don't befriend. Doesn't mean don't go with them, talk to them, or have to be like, okay, I don't want to talk to them. Not that one. Okay, it means don't get influenced by them.
这了唐伯的几点了，长伯的昂就，长就说了，破是加民间呢，一大这边一大的，他大这边，但几点来的看这些呢，人来的大昂就的，那长就的，我只是想个这些，但只是知道退休不要的话，几点退休不要的，现在至少了也破加区域面呢，因为我这地方这电杆说这个一大说的这。但今天我破了这个被虫子来的有，他好像我第一个一大起来了吧，我至少他不加几个别的大几个是我的。
So there's more explanation given on page, in the middle of page 194. So what does it mean when we go for refuge in Buddha, we should not take refuge, ultimate refuge in others, including worldly gods or the deities. So who are they really? You might say, give me a few examples. So here are the names, like we cannot take refuge in Rudra or Vishnu. Yes, they are very powerful. They have amazing powers, granted that. But still they are in samsara, so we cannot ask them to help us to get out of samsara. So if that is all true, but anybody who is less than Rudra and Vishnu, like some kind of nagas and some kind of these, invisible spirits, local deities or spirits, we cannot take refuge in them. Yes, we can ask for some help, but we cannot seek refuge in them. Especially in good old Tibet, almost like every little hamlet and the local has some kind of a deity there, some local, So Tibetans are too much into like cultivating this and that. Got to be very careful, right? So we can ask for help, but if we somehow take refuge in them, then we might lose our refuge practice.
Oh, the工作叫什么的是在这些的实验的为什么？这样。教授了也马现在得到了两个的没用完也得到了这个确定小王个性个那错在完呢没用完没得变呢见到了错完的明白了你是因为这对小先东西我的相当的工作怕下呢因为工作的特别的真的么工作教授他都教授下因为工作天这个样子的工作 drop 错的要错现在这个是吧
So what does it mean? Now we are really trying to define it. What does it mean? We should not seek refuge in them. Kyamdo in Tibetan, right? It means if we give up our refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, say, what? Here I am, you take me or something into your arms. That's the issue, right? If we still give our refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha and ask for some temporary help, because some of them, can help us many ways. That's okay. That's not called taking refuge. As some of the examples given here, when we are sick and we need, medical help, who do we seek the help? Doctors and nurses, the medicine. That's okay because they have the ability to help us. But we are not giving up Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Said, hey, doctor, you are the Buddha, help me or something. All the benefactors, in order to support our practice, we might seek the help of benefactors, who have tons of money in Swiss bank account or something can help us. Another footnote. So that's okay, but we are not going to say, okay, I'm going to give up Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and I'd like your dollars, help me. That will be trouble,
다 쇼구조게 가벨라자야 심데 노스 봉사야 되 군지시게서와 이번에 매도 들어라서 벌 딕바다 신마다 고라슈바서도 종주바라와 엔 나푸바다 미드힌딩 게와 도보이는 거는 지단다 케기사이도 거 도보기 키워드 나 코나 촉수스키 거 모두 엔 메교디 도보기는 예바지 샤고라와 미드힌딩 게와 소 게와 라소 소 삼바던 저게 심지는 너바 서보고 삼바세는 심지에 되고 상하도 삼바라와 다 저하고 시베는 저와라와 다 나사당 그러와 되고 삼도 나사당 말아와 디거주 삼년이가 보고 그러세요 그러와
And so having gone for refuge in Dharma or spiritual teaching, we should not harm or hurt others. Now what does that really specifically entail, if you ask, is that if we abuse animals, right, we beat them, for our own pleasure or something, or that we lock them up, and don't feed them, and imprison them, or sometimes we pierce their nose or whatever we pierce, I don't know, you tell me. So that is kind of hurtful. Then even in some situations, as these animals are it helps us to carry things, but if we, overload them, we put too much on them that they really couldn't carry, so that will again become an abuse. Something they can carry, we use, that's okay, but treat them compassionately, nicely. But if we overload them, that would become hurtful to them. So basically what we're saying is by both thought and action, we should not hurt others. By thought means don't even cultivate this negative mindset that, I don't care, you are animals or cuckoos or something. Or by action, by doing all sort of things, abusing physically or verbally those things, so that becomes abuse, action.
当通报没写吧，我的他感觉工作上这个公安的一些民间，我这没做到的呀，这个他这时候他工作里看嘛，他出去的时候嘛，的工作的这个初步劳动这个嘛些时候，他这就当然的这写的时候了，看接着写啊，这我的起手了的，电影创这么认定是的嘛些时候是。
Having gone for refuge in Sangha or spiritual community, then as we said, for lack of a better word, in English we said, do not befriend non-Buddhists. But what it really means is that, yes, we can become friends at an ordinary sense, like, know each other, get to know us. That's all fine. But don't become like completely trusted. You are my soulmate kind of thing, friend. You're my soulmate friend. And now I give up for, Sangha because, I found you or something. So that would be the problem, we're talking about.
Develop somne sangi ki kusu remote table lingye che lingye chida shi la yang che menda shi wo ye sar me sha pa tang karsa tamar joba so migupa tang ni tap pang ne so tomba kuwe xing du song de se xi ding le xi de de xi gu su xing le jiang ye ba jie re yang lu ke be chu jie song so se long nam jie le long nam ta ti ring bu da ti xian da ta kong ji sang ji bu ge gu da ka de ji na de le ya ni ta bu so xing ge ge ya ni chong ling ge na zhou yong ge de ba de na de ge xia ni bu ge ni ye de xi yo ma de sang ji gu de xie xia gu de se ho da tong da dong de ti de wa.
At the bottom of page 194, now we shift into the prescriptive precepts, or usually I call the complementary precepts. Okay. Now what we should do, from that perspective, having gone for refuge in Buddha, we should learn to respect, any representations of a Buddha, however they look. Maybe the artists have not done a good job because, I don't know what happened to that artist. But Buddha is a Buddha, so we respect as if that is a real Buddha. Maybe the sculpturers have not sculpted well the Buddha. Kind of Buddha looks weird and funny, but don't take that as like, okay, this kind of weird Buddha. Don't say that. Buddha is a Buddha. So we learn to respect any representation of a Buddha as if real Buddha is present there. So we don't use Buddha's representations, in some kind of a business venture, I will, put my Buddha statues or thanga or kind of a down payment, for something. That would be a problem. We cannot use the Buddha representations in sort of a business mortgage, kind of a, requirement.
见面的我介绍没有，我介绍是他英国这个地的呢，你去这个新庄上个地的，人家有啥这个的，你别个啥节嘛下呀这我听得的，你送个的大马下呀，是吧？他谁个这个地的，那个大马下那我们不啥个是吧？现在听得大马下要么的是吧？但现在的现在300下下呀的，没有，这些个多可是啥？最后国家的话是我们逻辑多，他别晓得要的。 상지 구수 짐그룹 지에 취시다 방도 위해서 저게는 그 카페에서 또 아티시사라 한국도 가져와. 그 약간은 샤레스. 그 비스 컨셉 타마타다 그 소지 사레스 거. 다 뒤쪽을 미지는 Oh, thanks on you. Well, the day Atisha, the Pasai is the mal names. Who could touch that? Something just to go on.
So at the bottom page 194, where it reads, at the bottom it says, by putting them in dishonorable places. Maybe that requires a little explanation. And what it really means is that, for example, say we have a clay statue of a Buddha made out of a clay. Then if we leave it out in a like unsafe place where there's a lot of water, that falls on it, it can destroy. So that's what's called putting in dishonorable place, because then Buddha statue is in a difficult situation there. Okay. Or that if you have a gold statue, right, or maybe diamond statue or something like, okay, I have a very priceless thing, so I need to buy a house and you keep it and, I'll buy the house or something. That would be, putting Buddha in a dishonorable situation. Okay. So I think a lot of the things is really depends upon our positive state of mind. Okay. And so Geshe kind of wants to tell this little story. That once it is said that I guess it's in Tibet, a Tibetan found a clay Buddha statue, with a lot of waterfalls on it. So it's really in difficult situation. Then this person couldn't find anything else. He must be a very poor person. So he basically found a sole of a shoe. Yeah, so kind of put it on the Buddha, right? So that this will at least protect the water dipping on the Buddha statue, right? So because of his pure devotion, and innocence, if you will, if you can use that word, that he accumulated certain merit. Then another Tibetan came after some time, like, oh my gosh, what did somebody do to Buddha, right? You put the shoe on the Buddha's head? That's so terrible. So then he just took it off but because of his devotion, he earned some merit. So sometimes, your mindset is what's important, not so much, what is objectively out there. Okay.
Oh, that long name jealous, that thing, long name jealous, Shibu Setja, Setja Lava, the Mulava, Indian Nola, Longbo Jungoji, Church, Shusum, Shurma, Jishi, Sheva Lasso, but me, Yemi Mendawa, Joji Shebe, Gonye Mendawa, Joji Yubi, Shusin Yay. Risquete, Tomba Usuki, Tuni, Shaki Gibu Pardus, in Tundra Deber, Songbatangsa. But that did look you rob the sugar was a dire. Because the ship said just in it. The multiple short is that the Kunzu Sasha Doji said, that's Sasha the short tone in Amati Butelia, Yondel Lab series.
No, sir.
Yondel number fair top of the joy.
No, sir.
And this is a good number share of that. Shiramoyenza. In the Nambalanga, Tavasamari, Yungundus done, Chon Travashis, in Tavashi.
No, sir.
Travashi, Nico Travashi, and the Gilon Shelam, so dead singers are it.
No, sir.
She and Amagta and Nambal gave in Chonzo, Rese.
No, sir.
And Nambe Gilon to Tavasamaris, Konzo Kar Shema Jigo Mari, Lams Yams Land the word. She had a Nati, Zunda Yung Samaris.
No, sir.
And then I mean, the tip Maris, it do the loves. During the lot and the music and the consul to Nimeshi, Maristar, Duja, consul Duja Lagmari, Kaka Digres. In Tangids and Yatako Castle, some in Tongre, Duja Lapshos, like in the coin, because the Nyai Goji, King Goji said, country contact, Gilon together, Mindo Movasa, did the last time, Gilon to Parliament, and he had that carried some damage. But then it got Juzala in the go without choosing Yai, today Jaga Jen, in Yabaso with Yajasha, Jagi, Tawana, in you must call serious. And soon, any got to tend to teach course, what Shambo is a 10 mother, and the Midwa, Langa, Mambo, Miladi, country contact, and got to 10, she comes out of that, she don't is a and so don't any that Mambo did them what and the Mudi were Mambo you. Don't much I get to buy and take paradise. And the motive is good. Gizo Kota, but the Chakdish is it's what did them with the Alpha.
Yes, sir.
She has a anything long time, did be Koya, Biggie Koya, did a single lad. And Pamikation and joke did a sugar card, give such a best. Muta moving by a number Mambo Yorova.
No.
Teaching and call ya and chief such a best easy.
No, sir.
Could be gay Johnny. 저 니가 가르쳐서 쓰는데 애도 아멘 디제 라셰 제 디제 차송
So.
어디 롱 때문에 로지지라 어디래
Something like from previous, at the bottom page 194, so we have a quote from Nagarjuna's Shrulik or friendly letter, which says, just as the learned worship an image of the Sugata, whatever it is made of, even wood. So it doesn't matter what materials are used to make Buddha representations or however the makeup is, good or bad, we must not make that an excuse to, talk bad things about Buddhas. Buddhas are Buddhas. So that's the part of it. Now next on page 195, the exegesis of the discipline. So Geshe, he basically telling a story here about a person called Salkyal. Unfortunately, I can't translate this back in the Indian name, but does it matter? He's another person in there. So what he did was, I think it seems that his mom was kind of a control freak, and so she didn't want to lose a certain plot of land or something. So then she wanted her son to be educated so that he becomes kind of a wise person, and then he can argue with others, and then they can keep their plot of land or something. And so that was the kind of hidden agenda from his mother. And so at that time, this is like what called a Brahmin or a Hindu boy, and so the mom said, you should learn well so that you can engage in metaphysical debate with these Buddhist monks, and so then when you defeat them, you will be able to keep your plot of land and all those things. And he tried, and it seems like he wasn't that a bright person. So he just kind of started to quit. He said, "Mom, I don't think I can do this one. This is just not working." And then Mom said, then just become a Buddhist monk, and then you learn something, and then you debate and engage in a debate. And so you don't have to know much. What you can do is you can be a little, what we might call rowdy, and in the debate, this is kind of a, badmouth these monks. We call it egghead, right? They don't call it egghead, like you dog head, you elephant head, your dodo, whatever, your pot head, And then he said, these monks, because these are Buddhist monks, they have a discipline to keep, so they are not going to say anything bad to you. So everybody else watching the debate, they think like you're really winning it because you're very loud and you are just, saying all those things, and then, that's how, we will be able to have what we want. So somehow, under the good advice of his mother, this boy must love his mother like anything. So he did that. Too bad. So he started to say, you fish head and elephant head and monster head, whatever he said, all those things. And so after his death, it is said that he was reborn as a crocodile in Indian Ocean with 18 heads. Okay. So this crocodile happened to be caught in a fish net. Fishermen went to fish, and then they caught this, monster kind of crocodile here, and they brought it on the shore, and everybody gathered just to look at that. We have never seen this, being just incredible with 18 heads. And then later, Buddha with some of his followers happened to come there, and Buddha also kind of joined the crowd. And then some of the non-Buddhist followers, they started to make fun of Buddha. Oh, isn't he supposed to be disciplined and stay away from all this kind of crowd? Now even he joined the entertainment here, Buddha is. So what Buddha did was he used his power to help this crocodile to speak in human language. Okay? And then Buddha started asking questions, how did you become with this 18 head, incredible being here? Well, then the crocodile opened his mouth and said, thanks to my mom, My mom is the one, my mom did it, So I badmouthed all these monks, during the debate and said egghead and, all this pothead, and so now this is what I become, So everybody was amazed, and no scale. No.
Lungnam Tenzile, Tomba Koji Yang Karsa, Tomba Kowaji, Yang David, Jesus, Gibbon Zendegi. 学的学不学，学的就吧那，那么些个，得到不学的学不学的学吧，咱们能子先把就马些说学连年说学完了，这里边先把呢，你有呢，那年纪三里全部学的就呢是学的当呗。多年前流行了是概念呗，年把上的节把送呗，古时了等着我些，等着我些没嘛话的，现在古时说有上过了，珠宝可是有上过珠宝，全部珠宝小话的，得了多呗是，卡多说一下全部用我是，但这样都记着吧。都把考完级两人的我的上级考完级送了吧？我的考完级就我上十多考完级考这人100的呗，考完级10多我送的，唐伯的你他样子上级唐伯的人的吧？对么？这样上级东城能唐伯的人是吧？现在考完级两人在在第基本这的些的修啥了？确定项目是想要些呢？想要下去，他们那么忙不用了。现在的呢，他没这个上呢，结婚确定项目的这些想的，对想他呀，偷偷就他然后嘛了，然后嘛了是。你这个忙的那么就现在也没写的是。就在确定的里边找不人家，过年嘛可能的也没写完的呀。越把钱的，可能拉些多的呀，确定大家谁就是票的是。现在就来个的年把上头的里面的就在年把上头是这个，蛮多度假，概念不概就是呗，当然把这个能落的话，概念叫的，甚至土着跑去都是老东西呢，年过这概念不要收的话，我这概不这是，那个他连着过去的话，可是他里面是那我这说的年把上头是我的懂的的。
lukju dike dike ta thonda cho da lo gen
la
lukju tanda nge lukju chka na ba nya go chob je chab dike ta thonda cho da jan ma ta kon se lukju ka chen shegun sam chansa ro gen
ale de ale ya ta labja chui ki malab na no so in ti dibu de khar yung gar do de yung gar so ta to do si na
yeah I think we need to tell you the whole point of telling all these stories, otherwise you think like what is all this story coming up. It is, having gone for refuge in Dharma, we need to follow the Dharma sincerely. If we somehow, how should I say, cast aspersion on Dharma or undermine it, then we might end up, all these negative kind of outcomes of the results. Now, there's another story. I think it's a storytelling there. Where are the children? On page 195, during, I think it was at the time of Buddha, the first Buddha. We believe that during this eon there would be 1,000 Buddhas, and the first Buddha was called Buddha Krakuchanda. Okay? And so he passed away, and then his patron, the Indian king by the name of Karumal, so he said, let's build this huge stupa, reliquary stupa to honor the Buddha and that. So he has this grand plan to build this huge stupa. And as they started to build it, then one of the workers or the laborers, probably, he got a little tired of that. He said, when will we ever finish this? This king must be little that. And so he kind of showed his attitude during conversation, like, oh my gosh, we'll never finish this one. What kind of a plan, somebody has got. But somehow, the stupa was completed magnificently, and then he really regretted for all his attitude and the bad-mouthing part. And what he did was, whatever some of the wages he earned, he bought a little, this gold, bell, golden bell, and he offered it to the Buddha statue, stupa. And so then, after he died, he was reborn again as a human being in the same kingdom. Now this time, he came back with a very unique quality. He has this amazing voice. But he didn't look amazing. What a interesting thing. He looked, very ugly. And So if he was inside, if you don't see him, and if he was singing or chanting or whatever, just everybody, would, fall in love with his voice. It is even said that when he was chanting or doing something, even the animals, passing by his house, they would just, stop there and listen to him, So he had that amazing voice, but with a terrible look. No scare.
Diri kya karsa dira kar lavri dido mare dira hidi yero mi ding mi ti ji kunjo so ding ti labja nyamba me ba ti ya ka na le de le sa lao so si do la le so si khang ji jam chu labja de dom chu dot din na le de tho ba so le de se de da no zo make de me za ni ngamu lo yu da de de tho ne ra tu ni sin ngu ne sin na any lo yu tho de be so bo sin do ko su do ti ta thì 이제 저 더다다 이 개건도 됐다 잠들라 라마도 나 어디 인도 상속을 되고 말해 어디 다 들는데는 니래 시워래 어디 다 랍자 좀 들려는 거 봐라
Geshe quoted 1.5 stanza from the condensed Lam-rim in a poetic expression, which really gives us the important point here that having gone for refuge in Dharma, we have to sincerely engage in Dharma, and the core practice of Dharma is to follow the law of karma and its results, And so if we undermine the law of karma, and then we are going to have to face the consequences. So that's the main point why we are talking about all the stories. It is said that if we have time, we really need to tell more stories as a sort of a narrative evidence. Here comes my professors helping me. Narrative evidence to support, our contention and the points here, and so that we develop more faith in the law of karma. Because for us, it's very hard to see the consequences of karma often in our life. Life before and life after, we don't see those things. Okay, so that's why all these stories are provided.
So
let me mark this, and we will stop there, and we welcome your questions, and the traveling mic is nowhere to be seen. Just yell at me. Page 1995. Anybody has questions? But you don't have to have questions. Oh, yes, you do. Yes.
How could we know a teacher or someone who says the teacher has reached emptiness?
Oh, you mean how do we know if a teacher has realized emptiness or not? Is that your question? Yeah, okay. Tadi moran dia jaga mero, mosem test tebi semarnya. Pausta yang ye kadisas, ini malam lagi nge. Di kasaki, di jaga mero sabdagi kasa orang kangsa kasa dia tiang usah jauh robak ye, kibu tambala. Kibu tambala tiang saya jaga mero, lalu masuk robak. Jadi ini susu kewe sini kan jadi tongyi tua robak ye, tua ye mede kan sahaku orang sada.
Ale tongyi tua kerja aku bersih.
Wah kewe sini ada jadi robak, tongyi tua ye mede kan sahaku orang sada.
Kalau mikirnya sih orang kono
sih. Mikir bade.
Ale mikir bade deh, tidak tak kalau tongyi tua kerja mana. Kerja tongyi kita siapa, na tak ada mesti tiada. Lalu pabrik mungkin cuma cuma sekarang, orang juga sekedar cuma itu tak kerja. Jadi job itu sahaja loh, sambil sahaja kerja. Kerja teman hitam coba na, ini lalu pabrik na mungkin cuma cuma kerja kuat pergi 6 juta, tidak setahun ini bagus. Semua itu tak saya dah potong tiada, setahun itu bagus.
Generally speaking, it's rather hard to figure out whether someone has realized, emptiness or not, But then in Chandrakirti's supplement to the Middle Way, Madhyamika Avatar, there is a mention of how sometimes there could be certain what we call non-verbal symbols, the signs, indicative signs, which might indicate that someone has probably, we could say, right? We go on the probability. We can't be 100% sure that someone has realized emptiness. And this can be like, if a person is attending, teaching on emptiness or reading about emptiness, the person is so deeply moved, You can almost see some changes, outer, changes on the person, as if the person's hair stand on the end, and the person is, most sincerely moved, not faking out, sincerity. That might indicate that maybe this person has realized emptiness. Okay.
我这因为东西都在刚刚里呀，这些大用没定也不要嘛，这感觉大这些都是保养要的是，因为刚刚里东西都在刚刚这些个人这干嘛的嘛，就是保养这些是。
So that sign, indicative sign, could be visible, but we are not saying that everybody who has realized emptiness has to show that sign. We are not saying that, right? But it's possible that through certain visible, non-verbal indicative signs, we may be able to feel that this person may have realized emptiness or some deeper realizations. Yes, there's the mic. Yeah, we can roll it on the carpet.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Teacher. So how do purification practices work whenever there's our transgressions?
Okay.
And then how do you even know what practices you do? And then also, I guess, it's more like, how do you even know any transgressions have been purified? Because considering that story that you were saying, he did all these, the big stupa and everything,
Right.
next life, beautiful voice, but yet came out completely,
Right.
Unattractive. So it sounds like
Okay.
something
Okay.
didn't fully get
Something
purified.
flipped. Okay. Yes. Koran kan shwe de de sha gen ta pena tanda de wa chi len de second tamo yin ba de de gyu jin chen ta tanda nyam ba sang de na shi ro ba gen.
我这
Shwa jin de si de ke pe ma se ya shwa ji de dong ni shu chi go ro ba gen.
我这
De ju ka la pena ta le nyam ba ji sa be na ngang zo di le di pa ta se che de ro ba ge chang ya che de nyam le ro ka ri ro wa. che go che be ina le de ta ma da de kan sa go ro so ba ge. Ta pena ngang zo tip jong che be ina.
我这
제가 다마다 간다 하고 그래서 단단히 년바 상대로検査 시우차서 들어와 초진의 지도 미 세그 대표가 되게 미게 야고로 초진의 논의 시우시게 되셔서 그렇게 이버도 와 렌데가 가르치죠 그거다
다다 그 레적이야 뭐 거기에야 다 최대한데 지금 주변에 두두 연구 말했지. 애들 거기 로다 좀 지어라. 어 뒤부터 그 동에 지어라.
그래서
다 저 그런 대화시에네 애니 기부표에 지부터라 애니 거기에 있는 뭐 지어라. 어디 뭐 그 레적을 좀 말아.
그래서 근데 집중 해야 돼 근데
아니,
스티바
집중
전
해야
년에
돼.
가서 사고 그래서 스티바 장 받게
아 대화시다 피제 지도에네 대화시에네 그게 제가 추자야 저거 되게 이제 니급 상하게 되는데 이게 야 체마 열라고도 다 어저도 자 되게 니급 캬면서 체마면서 이도 말아 예 니바 장 되게 야 상배 체마 되게 용거졌어 다 간지 추자야 저다 지 장모서야서 되게 페이지 요면도 되게 유사래
아저씨 소소지 취재에서
어 너무 좋아 다 되게 연구 유사로 와 어디 간지 가다야 다 니바 소소비게 줘봐다 년부터 이상은 니바 다음에 대서 매래라 와다 가지 니부터 이마서는 니바 애들 숙제부터 말아
no so
그래
okay the first we want to answer to your question about this I hope you don't mind say this guy right now I have become American so this guy who had ugly look but beautiful voice and both are not the result of the same karmic action okay and so the beautiful voice is attributed to his regretting for bad mouthing the stupa and then offering the golden the bell okay but his ugly looks attributed to his all this attitude before he showed about like when can we ever finish this stupa this king must be going nuts or something so it's a result of different karmas as we say positive karmas definitely bring positive results and negative karma definitely bring negative results and they don't get confused or messed up somewhere and that's one thing we want to clear up the second thing about the purification practice Geshe said unfortunately he doesn't have any experiences to share here but what we know is that if we sincerely purify our negativities like that mental obscurations we may be able to experience certain indicative signs, such as like in your dream, that often you will see this repeated pattern of like, you are taking a, shower, and cleansing yourself, and things like that, are mentioned. But it's unfortunately, I've never experienced any of those, so I can't really tell you that. And, but one thing is for sure, that if we apply what is called the 4 powerful antidotes, or sometimes people translate as 4 antidotal powers, whichever way, then it is sure that we will purify our negativities. But if any of the antidotes is missing, we might purify negativity to a lesser extent. Okay. Now, who has the mic?
For your teachings. I have a point of clarification question. So with the story about the stupa, is the negative karma due to the fact that he's disparaging the project overall, or is it due to the fact that it's a project specific for a great Buddhist teacher? Is there a differentiation there? Like if he had said, gosh, this bank is never going to get built, is that the same level of negative karma, or is it specific to...
So I missed the last part.
So if he said to him, if it had not been a stupa for a great master, if it had just been like the bank, or a soccer field, would he have had the same negative karma accumulation?
Sure. Okay. Quran the Sega Shuejal Rogan, Tatan the Nyaba Sangdengi, Quran Donye Edit, Chuden Dilia, Takar Sokore, Konyam Jurobatin, Maduba Di, Chevikin, Yan Chitayam, me Penakebu, Ravake, Chuden Mashamaje, Pen Chunzu Chemborobaji, Ravake, Nugarabaji, Yaguina, or that day, did Yam Chokaras Love and Yalang Sago or Sago Marasa in Nixon.
Did that Chidan to Vishana called Chive was called Mother that Linged, how are you, Piece of Jim? Chundu Jan that paint of Yakatiko, Chujo and Legas Camara.
No, sir.
That should go out of a social or teach you.
No, sir. Geshe says, if the king was building, I don't know, a stadium or something, and then the guy bad-mouthed it, that may not necessarily be a negative karma. But this time, because the stupa represents Buddha's omniscient mind, so that also undermined the teaching, the dharma. So that's why the negativity resulted in his lack of beauty in the next slide. Yes.
Thank you, Geshe. So I think going along with Jenny's question, so if that person never took refuge with the three jewels, surely the karma would not be the same because he would not know that he was transgressing.
Okay. Alors, Quran da dila tanda mutin shuye jana disam da yusarwa ko tanda nyamba sanden ki kyawanga ma Quran nangpar che kunjo son kyamro che rawa ga di kengi ta bi chuden shang da khatang za lenge de chamen kisi ko kyamro de shu mena rawa ge kyamro da ni de ki mena rawa she da mena ko khatang ko ha go ma rawa da ke chuden shang da khatang na digwa ba ha ma go che la be na digwa yo mar so da
did the have more than digwa yare this is that tundo that to go Digba Yavako more than Digba that go shot Nang Yunguris, Yat Kagajan Savers, that Digba Chishung did your Chizu Shiboto, the mother Digba yard, that country.
King this canon testing was a ranching economy again, the Chebek the Yankabamet.
I did it. She don't go just a Sush in a court Digba Doya, the Rashi Kanamoto was that she thought Digba been shown to us sort of do. Chebe khana mata wasiga
no sir
changa tung digba chai marwa da saji jear ma ji cha thunga ko khadul khai ko simjel nu ga mate ba khai nu marwa o dite se dire chebe khana mata wasiga da sei gi rena
tanda ge ben ding this the consta edition ben the case nga chulu shamba ga chöden den der ba ge sangsar khata da digba sagar ma dite
digba sagar de sagar da sheda sheda de sagar wa
now I was trying to get as much clarification as we could for you. Even I'll tell you the later part. First, what Geshe said is, even if that guy, had not taken refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, say out of ignorance, said the same thing, show the attitude, would have still created negativity. Okay, so in Buddhism, we talk about two types of actions, positive and negative. Doesn't matter. Okay, let's talk about the negative. That's what we are focusing, right? There are certain actions, doesn't matter, regardless of whether we are religious people or not, or buy into religion or not, if we do them, by the nature of the actions, those are negative, such as killing, stealing, and all of that. Okay, we don't have to buy into any religions, it's just by action itself. There are certain actions which become negative only if we break certain ethics and the rules. Okay, for example, like prohibition of alcohol. Okay. So if the monk drinks an alcohol, then that would be negativity. If somebody who has not taken any vows with that drink alcohol, right, it's not a negativity per se, So there are those, distinctions we want to keep in mind. And what I added, just maybe this might help us, I don't know, maybe not. I said, let's say, instead of talking about Buddha's statue, right, we say if we badmouth, like any, let's say, the holy place of other religious traditions, right, mosque or gurdwara or mandir or, whatever, thing, would that be negative karma? He says, yes, sure. If we badmouth, right, any religious spiritual they are doing, right, any other, we may not buy into believe that. If we say like, that would be same negative karma.
第最一的是带上一看到么子不是吧？这么这么贵啊？这么这下手了，送在面，我们都在这。
All right, we will stop there because we have another teaching in the afternoon, so that's why I'm just being a little selfish for myself. For those who have, as taken Yamantaka commitment, right? So we have the commitment teaching in the afternoon. Those who have not taken that commitment, so you're free, isn't it? So enjoy your Sunday. And as I always tell, don't come to unnecessary teachings. It doesn't help you. Okay, what are we doing? That's right. That Chindiru. Could you start the English quick returns on the watch station? That is. Suddenly set into solitary peace. You could not have given up your kingdom. In essence, it depends on the fortunes of the disciples, but the power of the pendulum is inconceivable. Please reincarnate soul of Dharma. Your compassion will never bend results. Also the inner teaching of a Buddha, we receive the teaching, dispositions and capacities, making directions for smashing into pieces, amount of misguided views and feelings, the thunderbolt lightning of the three reasonings, which is then shown as the essence of Buddhism, was measure of the teaching, scholars, and captivate for the excessive minds. We can show kindness and dedication in regards to the perfect view, meditation, and contact, and who facilitates the opening of the Lord's borders. That is the golden teaching of Tsongkapa. For the power of the three infallible jewels, for the power of our may your aspirations be spontaneously fulfilled.
Nam mô vô song cứu độ chí tôn bổn sư tùy phạn thái tử. Nam mô Bồ Vệ cao tổ chư hiền thánh thăng long thọ ô trước. Nam mô Đi Qua Ca La cùng trong cơ hoa tôn quân trụ hộ. Quang lâm đương chốn hiện tại hiện tiền ban truyền phước nhục. Lên thang đạo lộ trực chỉ chân tâm kiến tánh đẳng giác. Ngài đã siêu việt do nghiêm túc giữ ba tạng giới luật, rồi lại phát thi bay bổng tuyệt vời bồ đề hạnh chứng. Tôn sư quang minh cứu chúng thỉnh cầu gót xem lễ lại, xin mau trở lại quang huy truyền bá giáo pháp lô sa, bằng sự thắt chặt đai giới nghiêm minh thiền môn từ viện, rồi lại tâm từ bi đại nguyện giải thoát chúng sanh, xin chuyên hành trì du già mật nguyện nhị phần chứng đắc, xin luôn tư tưởng thống khổ bất tham ba cõi hữu tình, thường vị bao phủ trao đạo khôn nguy mãnh lực vũ trường, đưa tay rộng mở bát ngát vừa xem giáo lý Phật Đà. Xin mau tái sanh nhanh chóng hiện hành phước nguồn cứu chúng. Nam mô vô biên chư Phật chư Bồ Tát, các ngài thể hiện bát ngát cấu thân của chân Đại Lạc bất biến trong lần. Xin trải từ tâm ân cần phù hộ, mưa thánh thủy từ mây đại lộ, đủ lễ bi tịnh khổ rạng ngời, tận diệt thống khổ tức thời. Niệm danh ngài bậc đại hùng vô sánh, đã hoàn toàn chứng pháp tánh tơi tâm, ba tạng giới luật cốt thủy viên thông của đại thừa Như Lai truyền giáo. Ngài nâng cao lộc vọng pháp bảo, trăm hướng phương lan tỏa muôn phương, báu thân ngài chói nhòa phóng hạnh, sao bỗng nhiên nhập cảnh biết chi. Ngài từng trước Phật trợ nghi, hứa luôn hoàng pháp làm gì độ sanh. Nay ngài hẳn không đành bỏ nguyện, tùy phước đệ tử mà ngài hiện thế, lý nhân duyên chẳng thể nghĩ bàn. Xin mau hóa sanh thành lãnh đạo vàng, đi mãi chẳng bỏ đàn vơ vơ. Xin mau trở lại là đại đạo sư, như kho tàng chứa kinh thư vô lượng, lời tuyên giảng soi đường pháp bảo, khía căn cơ thiền xảo độ sanh. Xin mau trở lại là đại pháp vương, ngừng danh kim cổ mười phương tán đồng, phá tan núi mịt pháp lòng tà kiến, tam đoạn đợt xét nghiến sấm vang. Xin mau trở lại như thân đời trước, đắc ngũ minh kiến thức uyên thông, việc tài vô ngại lý giải pháp âm, học giả khẩu phục hành tâm, thiện giả cảm nhận hồng ân nước lòng. Xin mau trở lại là bậc đạo sư, hiên thư thông thái mẫn tử tận tâm, chánh kiến định mạng chuyên cần, hương sen hét nhị hương lân phát đàn, cổ tông khách ba ý ngọc lời vàng, cho thần lực tam bảo liên ứng, cho thần lực kiên khởi tương ưng, với tánh không bất nhị bất trùng, do tâm lực trí thành cùng tín ngưỡng. Xin cho sở nguyện chúng đệ tử được tức thời viên mãn.
Lord. ma je ba na je ju je je wa nya ba me ba yo wo ne wo da be wa jo la wa ren bo je ma je ba na je ju je wa nya ba me ba wo ne wo da be wa jo je me je jo je me lo da je ro lin je nian de jian ba de san ye jian do me de wi wa ye an zhou ge nan da jian xue mo yo ra wei guo wei xin gang de ben dan de wa ma le zhong wei ne xie le zi wang din zin jiang zuo ye xia bei si dian ba nian yu ye ye dan gu ru ran na man zhen luo ga ni yan da yu. Okay, Yamendaka commitment, teaching will be at 2. Yes.